All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Minnesota Vikings in tonight's video. They're currently 12-2. They've won 7 straight games. Their last loss, calendar-wise, was 2 months ago, pretty much 2 months ago. They currently, and I know my Vikings fans don't even really want to hear this. Kevin O'Connell also didn't want to hear this. The Vikings, according to BetGM, have the 6th best odds to win the Super Bowl. You guys are currently a plus 117 through 14 games, trailing only the Detroit Lions, the Buffalo Bills, and the Philadelphia Eagles. And keep in mind, man, none of the previous 5 Super Bowl winning teams led the NFL in point differential. All of them were in the top 10. So I know you guys don't want to hear that. But the Minnesota Vikings, and you don't want to hear that because of course, I click record and I forget coincidences. Can't even say the word right. Just the Billy Goat. I don't know. That as a Chicago guy, that's all I can think of. Just curses. It's on the tip of my tongue. Somebody will get it in the comment section. The last time the Minnesota Vikings lost a football game, it's 11 o'clock here p.m. in Florida. I am desperately ill. I'm excited to go to bed, so bear with me. But anyways, the last time the Minnesota Vikings lost a game, calendar-wise, was almost 2 months ago, like we said. I want to go back to the start of this season because I do want to talk about Minnesota here. You guys got 3 games left on the slate. Tomorrow, less than 24 hours from now, on the road against the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle, they're right there with the Los Angeles Rams. They're playing for everything. They're playing for everything. And then your final 2 games against my Green Bay Packers and on the road against the Detroit Lions for possibly the number 1 seed or the NFC North title. But before we do, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. I just said that. I guess I'm really ill. I thought I was just being a little bit dramatic. I guess I am rather ill, but yeah, let's get into it, man. We're back. We got like back-to-back Vikings videos where I'm just completely out of it. But a lot of people are saying, the Minnesota Vikings, you got 3 tough games. We're about to learn a lot about this team. The way I see it is we already know way more about this team. Obviously, nobody on planet Earth really predicted the Minnesota Vikings to be 12-2. People are saying, well, the next 3 games will prove, whether this team is legitimate contenders. If they go 3-0, if they go 1-2, they're not going to do anything. Even if they go 2-1, well, at least we kind of know they have a ceiling. You guys know on this channel here, I believe in like miracles would be disrespectful, but I Packers fan watching Enigma, my Green Bay Packers 14 years ago as the number 6 wild card team, we ended up making a run and winning the Super Bowl. And this is like not even the same stance because Minnesota is 12-2, yet some way, somehow they're in the wild card because of the Detroit Lions. But the point is, there's a lot of football to be played. There's a lot of football left. And, I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but I think it's important to just kind of go back to the start of the season because, the chances the Vikings go 3-0 were based at the fact that they're, winners of 7 straight, I guess would be, rather high. But, Minnesota this season probably goes, if we're just keeping it a buck, like 14-3. Even if they ended up going 13-4, it's not the end of the world. I don't think any Vikings fan will be pissed off or upset here. But we go back to the start of the season, even preseason, the Minnesota Vikings were 3-0. I mean, they were 3-0 in preseason. It's just preseason football, but it was mainly kind of all right, guys. Before we get back into this video here, this video is actually sponsored by BetUS, so we're over here on BetUS, and since we're just kind of hyping up the Minnesota Vikings in today's video because, well, first off, they're 12-2, so we're over here on BetUS. Too many times to say it, I get it, but anyways, just to make the point clear. The Minnesota Vikings have a plus 600 odds to win the NFC conference. Now, the Vikings are 12-2, and these are the same odds as my Green Bay Packers. If you're feeling it, I just wanted to show that out, but also keep in mind, guys, they're offering 150% bonus on your first deposit and also 125% bonus on your next 2. Let's get back to the video. Not disregarded, but it was kind of not really thought of, first off, because it's obviously preseason football, but the main storyline for the Minnesota Vikings was J.J. McCarthy got injured, and J.J. ended up being done for the entire season, his rookie season, after being drafted number 10 in this year's draft class. And so then the thought process became, all right, well, their quarterback, Sam Darnold. What's Sam Darnold going to do? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the pros. Let's talk about the cons. Let's talk best case. Let's talk worst case. Let's talk most likely. And so I'm not trying to say, well, the Minnesota Vikings went 3-0 in preseason and everyone, just kind of batted an eye because it's preseason football. Win-loss record literally means 0. There's a lot of dudes playing in preseason. But my point was, when Minnesota started off their season 1-0, it was against the Giants. Not too much there. Week number 2 against San Francisco, they took them down, and people started to look into the 2-0 Minnesota Vikings. And then week 3 against the Houston Texans, the Vikings won 34-7. And yes, CJ Stroud played in that football game. And that was when it kind of shifted. And that's when it became, hold on, wait a minute. The Vikings are 3-0, and they have now beaten the Houston Texans and the San Francisco 49ers. And then week 4, on the road in Lambeau Field, you take down my Green Bay Packers. And then in week 5 in London, you take down the New York Jets. So 6 weeks into the regular season, because you guys hit your bye, the Minnesota Vikings are 5-0, sorry. You're 5-0. And then they hit their bye week. And every team in the NFL, once teams hit their bye week, people just don't really care because bills got to be paid. You got to get the clicks. You got to look for the storylines. No one cares about the 5-0 Vikings. That was so last week, dude. And they lose barely to the Detroit Lions. Barely to the Detroit Lions. And even if the Detroit Lions ended up winning the Super Bowl 100,000 billion to 0, who cares, right? Loss is a loss. Wins are not wins anymore, but losses are still losses, right? That's the 2024 mindset in sports. They go on a short week against the Los Angeles Rams and lose. And so now the Minnesota Vikings are 5-2, but they've now lost 2 straight games, even though it was in like a 5-day span. And since then, the Minnesota Vikings have won 7 straight football games, and nobody gives a F. Literally nobody gives an F, except for now teams are getting eliminated. Talk shows need some topics. We can't talk about the downfall of San Francisco anymore. We can't talk about, all the teams. We can't talk about pretty much half of the league. The Jets discourse is getting annoying. Now we kind of got to start talking about Tampa. We kind of got to start talking about Washington, and I guess we'll talk about Minnesota. But now it's like, well, they've never really played anybody. This 7-game winning streak, it's cool, but I'm not impressed. I'm not inspired. They beat the Colts. They beat the Jags. They beat the Titans. They beat the Bears. They beat Arizona in grandeur fashion, by the way. They beat the Falcons, but Kirk Cousins is now benched. Who cares? And then they beat the Bears again, but Caleb Williams sucks, and the Bears suck. And actually, you know what? Caleb Williams is actually a good quarterback, but the Bears suck. But as Vikings fans know, because I'm a Packers fan, you guys are Vikings fan, we're NFC North guys. You could turn the clock back 6 months ago. I'm from Chicago, man. I won't be rude. I won't be disrespectful here, but that would have been a really big freaking deal all the way up until it happened. And even if it did happen, it would be F you, frauds. Vikings suck, frauds. This was a rant. This was a ramble. Like I said, I'm sick. It's Saturday night. We're live here. We're about to watch SNL. But thank you guys for watching. I know this was not the purpose. This was not the topic of tonight's video. This is just what became. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button. Hit that sub button. Guys, give me a score prediction for the Minnesota Vikings at Seattle tomorrow. We'll see you, hopefully, tomorrow evening with a victory recap. Not if you're a Seahawks fan. But that's it for today. Peace.